This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism, and this morning government says it will wean off public tertiary institutions from public payroll and provide them with a fixed amount or what it calls a block grant instead. Now, this is among key austerity measures announced by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta yesterday to deal with the crippling economy. There's been mixed reactions since yesterday, with many dreading the long-term implication on the masses. But should that really be a cause for worry? Well, we'll find out soon. But let's first hear from the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta when he addressed the nation yesterday.
I'm here today to announce to you measures to address the economic difficulties we are facing due mainly to recent global and domestic events. These difficulties have manifested in rising fuel prices, rising inflation and cost of living, exchange rate depreciation, rising interest rates, and revenue mobilization challenges. Government had its first regular quarterly retreat for 2022 from 18th to 20th March at Pejuase, concluding in Accra on Monday, the 21st of March. During the retreat, Cabinet deliberated extensively on a number of issues and approved a number of measures to support current efforts to address the challenges we are facing. Also on Monday, March 21st, 2022, the Bank of Ghana announced a
So that's the Finance Minister. Apologies, he's not speaking to the issue of weaning off public universities from government payroll. We'll bring you that soundbite shortly. But that is essentially what government has announced, that public universities will be taken off the payroll. What does this mean? Joining us via Zoom is the Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Education Committee, Dr. Clement Epak. We also have the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, and Julius Anthony, who is the General Secretary of the National Union of Ghana Students. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time here on NewsDesk. Let me start with you, Dr. Park. What do you make of this measure announced by the Finance Minister?
Well, let me say good morning to you, to viewers and listeners. I find it worrisome because I fail to understand why a country whose citizens are currently undergoing the level of hardships that we are facing are being told that government is going to de-subvent public universities. You must remember that university education is not free. The only reason why the fees that students pay to go to university is at least within range for the average student from your average background is largely because of government subvention. So if this proposal that government is making, which I totally disagree with, were to become a reality, what this would mean is that the universities would then have to find their own ways of generating enough resources to, for example, pay lecturers and other non-teaching staff at the universities. And if this is to happen, naturally, consequentially, the universities would then have to charge students the fees that would allow them to survive in the absence of government subvention. So the implications are very far-reaching and potentially dire in determining who can afford university education in Ghana.
Well, Dr. Park, if that is the price we would have to pay in order to improve quality at the tertiary level, why is that not justified? Especially when we have heard from our university managers all the time say that they are not given the room to charge what they term approved fees in order to generate enough resources to run the university in a manner that they would like to. Shouldn't this be a good move? Already we've seen a decline in government subvention over the years. What difference would this make?
Well, I disagree. I don't see how this proposal relates to quality. I don't see it. And the point I'm making is that it is about the student, it is about the population, it is about the ability to pay. And governments are there for a reason. Remember that we are a developing country. Ours is a population that still struggles to attain basic necessities for survival. Are you telling me that it is proper for us to disubvent the 15 public universities and to allow the universities to charge whatever amounts they deem fit to be able to run their programs? Is that not even going to widen the gap between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots? We obviously cannot embark in this trajectory. And look, it is true that we are currently facing economic crisis. But some of the proposals that are being propounded, to me, are only going to worsen the plight of the people of this country. And that is an example. Even in the current dispensation, with the subvention, with the fact that the fees of the university student is hugely subsidized, not all students are able to mobilize the resources to even pay the fees as of today. And you think that they will be able to pay the fees if it is then open and the universities are allowed to charge whatever amounts they deem fit to be able to run?
Dr. Park, we'll return to this.
Social imbalance in our society, and that is a long to medium-term effect.
And indeed, it's really about, finding that fine line between improving quality at the university level, getting the resources that are required to do so, but also meeting that social need and making sure that we help the poor. Let me bring in Kofi Asare. Mr. Sari, how is this done elsewhere such that you are able to strike a fine balance?
Well, let me indicate that the first time this discussion came up was around 2014, when the then Vice President of blessed memory made this proposal as part of measures by government to reduce the expenditure on compensation in tertiary institutions. As we are aware, government expenditure in the education sector, if you look at GOG's direct funding, more than 95% of GOG's direct funding goes into compensation, that is salaries. So reducing government expenditure in the sector means reducing compensation. Well, that is the bulk of the budget. So it came up, and then somewhere along the line it died down. I'm surprised it's coming up again, in the sense that our universities are currently overburdened with heaps of students. I know lecturers who are handling 1,000 students, one lecturer handling 1,000 students. Ideally, no lecturer should handle more than 100 or 50 students in the university. Universities are calling for more lecturers, but there are quotas, and so they are unable to get the lecturers they need. They are unable to get the clearance they need to recruit the lecturers they need. In the midst of these deficits, which is affecting quality, government is saying that, well, I don't have enough money to be paying your staff. And so I'm going to give you a grant, which is, if you like, a quota, an allocation. Use it. Once you finish, any other money you need, generate it from your IGF and then pay the staff. If you do that, there is the advantage that government will be consolidating fiscally, because you are going to ensure that there's fiscal discipline and that your expenditure on your recurrent expenditure is being checked. That's fine. So economically, it makes sense. But the implication of that policy on equitable access, on the rights conferred to Ghanaians under Article 24, 25 of the Constitution, in respect of progressively free tertiary education, and its impact on government's own targets to increase tertiary enrollment from 18% to 40% by 2030, which we have struggled to even make just 1 percentage point achievement over the past 4 years, it will affect the attainment of these targets and also constrict or restrict access to tertiary education. Why? Because the universities will now have the opportunity to charge realistic fees. And when they charge realistic fees, they will end up increasing the number of students, the percentage of students who are called fee paying. When you have that happen, the meaning is that more and more students who do not have the resources will not be able to enter tertiary education because it becomes, if you like, commodified. And so that is what this particular initiative means for the economy. It's good economically, but for education and for equitable access, it is bad.
How would you want government to approach this? Because as it stands now, it is an austerity measure because we need to save the economy. It may be a permanent feature in our national life, in the economy going forward. But how, for instance, could this be rolled out gradually? Could this be phased in a manner that will not hurt the system adversely?
This is a no. And let me tell you why it's a no. If you look at the compensation budget of the Ministry of Education, if government is intending to cut its budgets, first is that normally government will say the cuts will exclude compensation, and that the cuts normally will only affect goods and services and capital expenditure, which is CAPEX. But by making this suggestion, it means that the finance minister intends to cut compensation at tertiary level. Now, if compensation is no more insulated and can be cut, then the first item under compensation should be cut should be the teacher training allowance, because that is 250 million Ghana cedis. That is significant. So if compensation is not immune, as we thought, and indeed compensation can be capped, then the first item that has to be cut out completely from compensation is the teacher training allowance, because the teacher training allowance and lecturer salaries are all part of the compensation budget of the Ministry of Education, which the finance minister intends to reduce. That is the only thing I think should be done if we have to cut compensation and reduce expenditure in the education sector. But in terms of the salaries of lecturers, insofar as asking universities to generate more IGF to pay for the cost of their lecturers, which government is not able to cover all, you are commodifying education. And when you attempt that approach, you will end up constricting or restricting access to tertiary education to only those who can afford, because the cost will definitely be high. And if the cost is high, fewer people will be able to transfer from secondary to tertiary, and government will not be able to achieve its own target of increasing gross tertiary enrollment from 18% in 2018 to 40% by 2030. As we speak, as I told you, even without this intervention, we have only made 1 percentage point increase over the past 5 years. It tells you that even without this cost, even without this cost sharing measure, people are not, a lot more people are not able to make it to tertiary.
There's already a difficulty in that aspect. But Mr. Sari, the example is always given of the University of Professional Studies Accra, for instance, and what they've been able to do with the system that they manage. And you rightly referred to this issue coming up some years ago, I think in 2017 or so. It was in Parliament, and I recall that the University of Professional Studies Accra was given as an example of an institution that has been able to run heavily on internally generated funds. And it is doing well, at least from where we sit. Isn't it doable? And we see the numbers are not dwindling. We see a lot more people going in for that university, and they seem to be doing well.
You are making a specific case to the University of Professional Studies.
Yeah.
Look at the national data. Look at the national data. I'm saying we have stagnated at 18% gross tertiary enrollment for the past 4 years. Okay, so policies are not fashioned with just one institution in mind. They are fashioned for the whole sector. So you're talking about the public tertiary sector that currently admits about 500. I mean, that has about 500,000 students from first year to final year. And I'm saying that in the past 4 years, even without such cost barriers, we are struggling to increase gross tertiary enrollment by 1% over the past 4 years. So what you are saying is not supported by the data.
Okay.
But you don't mix two things up. There may be the peculiar case of institutions that targets skills upgrading for people who are already in industry, like GIMPA, like UPSC. Most of their students are people who are already in industry. And then they want to come and upgrade, you understand? So they are mainly for professionals. But a lot of our regular public universities, like University of Ghana, Cape Coast, UDS, and Co., are for people who are transiting from senior high school to tertiary. So these are not workers. So the extent to which they can afford such fees is very, very low compared to the extent to which an accountant who wants to go and undertake, an upgrading at UPSA, can afford. So it is quite a peculiar case for that school. But always we need to look at the bigger picture. The policy is saying that within the education strategy plan, government targets to reach gross tertiary enrollment of 40% by 2030. That target was set in 2017. It started in 2018. Between 2018 and 2022, as we speak, we have not been able to move to 9. We have not been able to move by more than 1.
We have stagnated, like you rightly mentioned. Mr. Sari, kindly hold it for me. We have Julius Anthony with us on the line. He's the General Secretary of the National Union of Ghana Students. They ultimately will be affected by this directive. Julius, I don't know how your members are reacting to this development already. Tell us.
Sincerely, there's no single student in the university who will accept this policy for any reason. And the reasons are simple. If you allow universities to now, pay their lecturers through internally generated, as the Director for African Education was rightly indicated, they will pass the cost. And who are they passing the cost to? They are passing the cost to our students, who will then have to pay for that. How many students are even able to pay their entire school fees at the start of an academic year? They are unable to, even with the current subvented situation. So without a subvention, it would mean that a lot of students who are already even in the institutions would have to fall out, because with the 60-40 arrangement of fee payment, which is in the University of Ghana and UCC, for example, if you are now coming to add compensation for lecturers as part of the school fees and all that, it would mean that what qualifies to be 60% of fee payment will no longer be. And even with that, people are unable to pay. So I don't know how government intends to roll this out and still meet their target. It is not possible, especially with free SHS, which has come to the second cycle level, where people are sort of adjusted to accessing education more seamlessly and all that. Then they are about to graduate to the tertiary level, and they now have to pay almost times 10 of what they spent in SHS, because now it's only about getting your bag and all that and going. Then you are spending more than times 10 is even an understatement. It is something which is highly impossible for parents and students to afford, and as he rightly indicated,
well, we seem to have lost.
We will not be able to meet our target of expanding our.
Very well. Julius, thank you very much. But Dr. Apak is still with us on the line. Doc, how can we do this? You are worried about the situation where many will be cut out of the education system. Can we explore scholarship programs, for instance, that will target people who are unable to afford? How else can we do this so that we can still save the economy? Because that is really at the heart of the conversation we are having.
No, if you want my honest opinion, I think this is a very bad idea. It is a proposal that should be discarded. In other parts of the world, what states are doing is rather to create opportunities for the population in times of austerity to upgrade itself to gain knowledge and skills so that the knowledge and skills can then serve as a basis to create more and new innovations avenues to generate resources. We seem to be doing the opposite. Look, as a member of the Education Committee of Parliament, and as somebody who not long ago was a lecturer, I can tell you that this proposal would be fiercely resisted. Because, I truly cannot see why government decides, in the face of the many other opportunities available to rescue this economy, that this is one of the ways to go. Essentially proposing to dislocate and, in fact, discriminate and make it impossible for largely segments of the population that we should be putting measures in place to give equal opportunities to be left behind.
Dr. Park, you have raised issue. You have raised issue with the neglect, what you call the neglect of the of basic education in the country and over-concentration on secondary education, obviously because of what you say is the political capital the government is making out of the free SHS program. But we know that even the free SHS program has had its challenges. A few weeks ago, we're talking about the lack of food or shortages of food in some of the schools. Now, if government were to argue that this will allow it to concentrate, and capitation grant is in arrears of over 300 million or so
No, 4 tranches in arrears.
In arrears.
The
If the argument is that
owes buffer stock food supply.
That is so. If the argument is that this is to wean off public universities in order to give concentration to primary and secondary education, would that be justified?
No, it will not. It will not. And you see, I am worried because of the knee-jerk reaction. Because, you see, when you want to make these sorts of proposals, it requires serious engagements, debate, analysis, and deep thinking. You don't just off the cuff after an extended cabinet retreat make proposals that have the capacity to dislocate and disadvantage a population that you should be making room to promote in terms of what you describe as upward mobility. How are you going to achieve that so-called upward mobility through education when you are making a proposal that is going to make university education out of the reach of those who need it the most? That is my major concern. And look, I can tell you, this proposal is going to face serious resistance, and I doubt whether it will see the light of day.
Dr. Park, thank you very much for your time here on NewsDesk. Let me come to you, Kofi Asare. And Julius made an important point about the free SHS program. How do you think this is going to affect that program, the way they're structured?
That it is not interested in touching the free senior high school. It is not interested in touching the teacher training allowance because they are political programs. And so instead of that, it will rather touch the budget of other non-political interventions or other non-political budget lines, like, as it were, compensation for tertiary institutions. But we must resist that attempt because it will not be in the interest of the students. It is not in the interest of the Constitution of Ghana, which talks about progressively free secondary and tertiary education. And it is not in the interest of the Education Strategic Plan, which aims to ensure that there is up to 40% gross tertiary enrollment, 40% gross tertiary enrollment by 2030. So it is actually a negation. This particular proposal is actually running counter to what government's broad plan is in the education sector. So we must draw the finance minister's attention to the fact that there is a plan to achieve 40% gross tertiary enrollment by 2030. And even without this cost cutting, if you like, cost cutting and cost sharing, because the cost is going to be shared with students. Without this cost cutting and cost sharing measure, that target is struggling to be attained because we have moved by just 1 percentage point over a 4-year period. And so bringing this will actually derail the attainment of the target for cross-sector enrollment, and it will commodify education and it will make education more expensive. Government has a responsibility to provide tertiary education. It is not the responsibility of students. It is not the responsibility of universities to provide tertiary education. It is the responsibility of government and cannot be shared. If it is interested in cutting the compensation budget line of the Ministry of Education, that is fine. But where it should cut is the 250 million it spends on teacher training allowance. That is wasteful and must be cut. And not salaries.
I'm grateful that you can join us on this conversation. Thank you very much. That's the Executive Director of Education, Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare there. Julius, let me have your final word on this, and then we'll take a break.
Well, it must be obvious to whoever is behind this policy, government, the Ministry of Finance, and all of its actors, that students are not going to sit meekly and allow this thing to happen. When government attempted to introduce utility bills and all that in the university, we resisted it. And any attempt to share the cost of compensation with students, and as it looks, it's not even about sharing, they are completely shifting it to us. Any attempt to shift the cost of compensation for lectures to students will be fiercely resisted, and the National Union of Ghana Students is going to be at the center of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Julius. That's the General Secretary of the National Union of Ghana Students. You're watching Newsdesk with me, Ernest Mina. Our top story this hour: government announces plans to win off public universities from its payroll and to provide them with what it calls a block grant. There have been fierce opposition to this announcement. We're taking a break. When we return, we'll bring you more. Plus, the Black Stars game. We'll take you to Kumasi and gauge the mood in that city. Stay with us.
Time now for business. I am Beverly Broom. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is confident the additional spending cuts announced will help restore investor confidence and deal with the current challenges facing the economy. The minister yesterday announced a series of additional spending cuts expected to some 3.5 billion cedis for the economy. Some have questioned these measures, with some describing it as cosmetic, but the finance minister disagrees.
Israel is a government that is committed to meeting the goals we set out in the 2022 budget, irrespective of the challenges that we have met, and saying that for those things we can control, there are certain things we can, and we are going to be more vigilant about those things. Government's fiscal rectitude and protecting the public purse, and then ensuring that the global issues do not necessarily derail our objectives going forward. So we are confident about that, and we really expect others to also still believe in where Ghana is going.
My major problem is also the bit about the committee that you might be putting together as well to ensure compliance. If you look at overruns in the previous years, right, what will be done this time on to ensure that everyone sticks by it?
These are extraordinary times, yeah? And so the committee is already functioning at the ministry, dedicated to that. And really, when we look at the nature of our gift miss systems, it won't even allow you to be able to book those expenses. So those will be worked more.
The Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim Awal, is entreating the newly inaugurated board of the National Museums and Monuments to monetize the National Museum and other tourist sites in the country to mobilize more revenue for the growth of the sector. According to him, his outfit will renovate most tourist sites in the country to attract more tourists. He spoke to Joy Business at the inauguration of the new board of the Museum and Monuments.
Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim Awal at the inauguration called for a paradigm shift that will aid the sector in mobilizing revenue through digitization. He revealed plans to modernize tourist sites in the country and mandated the board to support the sector as well as change the face of tourism in Ghana.
First, let's turn that National Museum into a profit center. It means we have a marketing strategy that will tell us how we drive people there, school children, corporate, and then visitors are coming. Last year, tourism rose over 100%, international tourism. It's all this, over 100% in Ghana. That's what we achieved. All these people coming to Ghana, we're expecting 1 million tourists this year from outside. If we have even half of them going to the museum, can you imagine the amount of money we are going to get? So one, turn that museum to a profit center, not only showcasing our cultural heritage, also making money to preserve it. Two, how are we going to modernize and improve the forts and castles? There are a lot of charities around, foundations that can give you money. But the ministry is innovating a lot of them this year. We'll start by middle of this year. Cape Coast Castle is the biggest, is the most attractive tourism site in the country. Elimina is there.
But Chairwoman Dr. Edith Dankwa was optimistic with regards to the task given to them. According to her, members of the board will work collectively in achieving the needed goals to support the sector.
So I am positive that with the members that we have on the board, we should task ourselves. If we claim that we have gained some level of experience in various fields, we should be able to put it together and also tap into others. We're not going to do it alone. We have 30 million Ghanaians, and there are some who are older than us and who have experiences than us. There are some who have artifacts that we can display. How can we use technology to move things forward? So there's a lot to be done, and I'm glad you've charged us to put a document together. We'll do all we can. If we are able to do that, we'll have to bring in, people from outside to help us do it. We should be able to do it and come up with a paper that can help us achieve our aim.
The board in the coming days will provide a document to the minister on their plans to salvage the sector.
That's all for Business Now, but for more stories, please log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for staying with us here on News Desk. It's now time to talk tech, and the man himself is here, Kobe Spiky. And what's up with iPhone and hardware?
Yes, so if you use an iPhone and you want to subscribe to iCloud, you pay monthly.
Yeah.
If you want to use Apple Music, you pay monthly. Now imagine having to buy an iPhone, not buy an iPhone per se, but owning an iPhone and paying monthly. So you're subscribing to own the hardware itself. So it's not like you're paying monthly.
Okay.
Not like they've given you the cost of the phone, like $1,200.
But you need to pay for the hardware so you could use the phone.
So you're not paying as a whole. You're paying a subscription fee. So you go, you sign up, say, hey, I want an iPhone 15. And then they tell you that, okay, for the 128 gig, you'll pay, let's say, every month you pay $50 until you want a new one. Then you bring the old one in and come and trade it in.
Why?
Because, hardware manufacturers like iPhone or Apple have realized that people buy the devices and that's it. They don't get money from them again. So which is why they introduce subscription services for a lot of things like cloud storage, like music, movies, see Netflix, you have to pay monthly. Imagine if you had to buy the movie. You buy
subscribing to too many things. This is an additional.
So they're getting recurring money every single month. That's what they're looking for. Now they want you to pay recurring money for the hardware.
So what happens if you decide not to subscribe?
Then maybe, we don't know yet, or maybe you pay the price as a whole. But if they do this, the idea is that it would cost people to get the device, because at the end of the day, you're not shelling out the whole amount to get it. You're paying just a monthly, subscription fee. And if you don't pay, your phone doesn't work or something. I don't know. But
when is this coming? I mean,
so there's rumors that it's probably going to happen in 2024 or 2023, as early as 2023.
That's next year.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Okay. What else is happening in the world of tech?
So if you use iMessage or you use WhatsApp or whatever, you know how the difficulty is, someone says, oh, I'm not on WhatsApp. And then you have to send them a message. Now, the EU is looking at passing a law that would force iMessage, WhatsApp, and all the largest messaging apps to work with smaller ones. So interoperability in messaging apps. So imagine sending a WhatsApp message to someone.
So all of you
Telegram.
iPhone users who say, well,
yeah,
I'm not iMessage, AirDrop, all of that, please. I support this 200%.
Yeah, we all support that. And there's a teenager who's been accused of being behind the lapsus ransomware that's going around. They hacked Microsoft and they were bragging about it. It's a 16-year-old multi-millionaire cyber criminal. So he's alleged to have excess of 300 bitcoins just by hacking companies and then installing ransomware, encrypting their stuff, and then taking a ransom. Wow. And his parents are in shock because he thought we always thought he was just playing games on the computer.
He had no idea what he was doing.
He's a legend right now in the cybersecurity world, in the hacking world.
Wow.
But he was outed by his own fellow hackers and some cyber researchers, cyber security researchers. Reason being that they said he didn't hold his end of the bargain. So they put out his real name, his social media pictures.
Oh,
and
too bad
he's being
for him.
Investigated.
Too bad. 16 years, you say?
16.
Wow.
When you were 16, what were you doing?
16 years. I was in high school. I was sleeping in the boarding house somewhere.
This guy is hacking Microsoft and the rest.
Charlie.
And finally, Spotify paid 130 artists more than $5 million last year.
Charlie, Spotify is the real ish right now.
Just streaming. This goes to tell people.
You have any product, just put it there.
Just music, podcasts, whatever it is, and people are making money. There's a few gray areas though, because there's people are complaining that it's only the big artists that are making the money, but
well, that's not entirely true because I know some of our people have their stuff on there and they say it's doing pretty well. I guess putting it there is one major step, but promoting it, getting it, available and all of that is also another.
So don't expect it to be automatic. You just put it there.
That is it. That is it. Kobe, thank you very much. Next time we'll have to put something there so we can start making some money.
I have stuff there. I have a whole album there. I have podcasts there. This
is why I end the conversation. I'm on my own. Kobe, thank you very much. So that's it for our Tech Talk. Up next is the Black Stars. Are we winning tonight, Kobe?
Any team I support loses. So I support the opposing team so that...
So you support Nigeria? Yes. God bless you. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Time now for sports. Muftar will join me shortly. He's actually already here, but we're going to Kumasi now. Residents there despise the replica Black Stars jersey, like I'm wearing right now, after the team, terribly lost the African Cup of Nations match. That was a terrible disaster. Well, the jerseys are, however, the fastest selling right now on the Kumasi market, with prices surging by 30%, despite the fact that, soccer supporters in Kumasi are still hurting from the recent AFCON competition. They remain confident that the Ghanaian, the Black Stars, will tonight win that game against Nigeria. Love FM's Nana Ojima gauged the mood in Kumasi ahead of the World Cup qualifier, and our reports.
God is Good Sportswear is one of the vibrant wholesale sports shops in Kumasi. During the African Cup of Nations 2021, the business stocked over 1,000 pieces of Black Stars replica jerseys with the hope of making good sales, but they were left disappointed. Shop owner Emmanuel Owusu is, however, overwhelmed by the current show of support for the Black Stars, which translates into purchase of jerseys and paraphernalia. Even
the yellow ones, which are not liked by many, are being accepted. For the white ones, they are almost finished. Moving the game to Kumasi has helped us.
Prices no original no yeah, they give 50. This year should cost at least 80 cedis.
Then thank God football have bring us together once again to show who is the king.
Captain of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, Ahmed Musa, admits the clash, nicknamed Jollof Derby, is more than a football match.
It's about politics, Nigeria-Ghana. It's about the jollof that you just mentioned, Nigeria-Ghana. About music, acting,
what he said, you have fufu and you have eba. Which one people will taste very well? So it's like Ghana go to World Cup or Nigeria go to World Cup. Everybody wish in this West Africa that two of them go, but it come to a situation that one of them have to drop. And we are not going to drop. They have to drop, so they know it. And
former captain of the Black Stars, Sami Osei-Kuffour, will rate the game as one of the biggest games on the African soil.
I quite remember we have a game in Nigeria whereby Abedi Pele wasn't even in the team, but we put his name in the team sheet, and his name come on the, what do you call it, so was a bit confused for the Nigerians. And by the time that he realized that he's not part of the team, they have already.
Well, back here in Accra, I've been engaging some people at the Odona taxi rank, and here are their reactions ahead of the match.
Why not?
You sure?
100%.
Hey, you gave him a why?
Gave him pass. Nigeria. Oh, Ghana, Nigeria. There. It's not about form. It's not about the number of players you have playing abroad and all that. No.
But I mean, you've seen the players, the caliber of players they have.
Yes.
And you've seen our lineup.
Of course, it doesn't matter. You see, when you look at their midfield, nobody is better than Partey. So, for the midfield, we've conquered there. And then attack, maybe you have some slight. I don't think our attackers are at par with the Nigerians, but still, I mean, we are going to score them.
So what's the score?
3-0.
Hey,
of course.
You are so confident.
Yes.
Well, is it a Babaya thing, or you just think that we have a good team?
That one might contribute, let's say 40% of, but the players, the quality we have, I'm sure we will win. Yes.
Oh, if you score you like 4. For a normal 4 save, Charlie. If we score you like 8 save.
Hey.
Oh. Right. But when our team is not good, eh?
The team not good.
But if we score you like 4. First half 3. Then second half make the hard one.
Partey the captain
though. Oh. But you know say when our team is not good. But if discipline day there, we go feel the best to be same, maybe draw.
A draw. Mufta, what do you think?
A draw? I think Ghana will win. But qualifying is what I'm not sure about.
Okay, because we have subsequent games.
Yeah, because no, there's another game in Abuja.
But you see, if we beat Nigeria here, that is good enough. It's good spirit for us.
Like, it's good spirit for us.
We need it so badly.
We need it badly to set the tone of qualifying to the World Cup. But there will be a remaining 90 minutes to slag it out against the same opposition on Tuesday. So I think that it's not a forgotten
in Nigeria.
In Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we should hear from Otoado, the head coach of the team, who will be leaving, before we speak to Nana Kweku Ajiman. Otoado has been speaking about how Ghanaians are very skeptical about the team.
People are skeptical because of the let's say the last bad tournament, so it's normal. But where there's skepsis, there's a chance, and this skepticism, which was among the press or among a lot of people, made us actually work harder. So we have a plan. This is for sure. For sure, I can't tell the plan right now. You have to play the game, and then everybody hopefully will see. But football is football. You can play good, you can still lose. You can play bad, you can win. So first of all, me and the coaching staff, so we worked hard. The players worked hard to bring the plan on the pitch.
There seems to be a lot of confidence in camp.
Yeah, big confidence. But let's go on Zoom right now and speak to Nana Kweku Ajiman. Nana, are you skeptical too?
You call it skeptical. I'm realistic. It's nothing about skeptics, my brother. This team that is going to play now. Have you ever seen the players that have been called together play together as a team before? The answer is no. I believe the problems emanated even before the Cameroon debacle. You've got to bear in mind that we didn't qualify for 2018 either. So we're between a rock and a hard place. The issue is who's going to score the goals. And I've learned just a moment ago that Kofi Tre is out. And for me, that's a big blow. I've been reading stories all week. Big blow here, big blow there, big blow there. Kofi Tre not being in the team, that's a very, very big blow. And I'm learning that the young man here, Jordan Ayew, has been included, and I ask myself how. He doesn't have any form. He's not trained for days. He's just arrived yesterday in Kumasi. How can he be in starting 11? So there's little things like that, you know, which certainly don't give me the confidence that we can do anything.
But Nana, with a consortium of coaches assembled, you're still not confident about what they can do?
Well, the coaches are not playing. They're not playing.
But it is their ideas that are playing.
No, but you see, the thing about this is that, you know, in our kitchen, we've got 4 cooks. In the Nigerian kitchen, we've got 1 main cook. Egwavan is the technical director and the head coach. Here, we have an inexperienced person as a coach in Otuado, who this is his first major assignment. By and large, George Boateng, Chris Hooton are streets ahead of him and Didi Dramani. And by and large, he will depend a lot on what they say, but in order to show that he's his own man, he will come up with whatever he thinks should really be there at the end of the day. And it's a roll of the dice, my brother. I mean, I heard you say that there is a possibility that we could win this match, but qualification is something else. And I would share that with you. I would share that if we did sneak through on this match in Abuja, it's going to be something else.
So, Nana, where do you think this game will be won or lost?
Potentially, it could have been lost now with the exclusion of Kofi Tre, because at the end of the day, when we look at the strikers that we have, they've not scored 10 goals between all of them.
Yeah, they've got 9.
They haven't scored 10 goals. Kofi Tre has scored 10 goals and provided 10 assists as well. So that overshadows our strikers anyway. I think that what's got to happen is everyone's got to have an eye on goal. Everyone's got to have an eye on goal. Because the attack it's not what we want it to be. I'm happy Afinia Jan is there. No problems with that. I think he should get a run out. I think that the new strikers that have been called should be the starters.
Okay. No, I don't know. NST, a lot of pessimism, I don't know, listening to you. You deflate my confidence, but would you be surprised?
It's really good.
Would you be surprised if we make a draw at least?
Yeah, of course. I'll be surprised if we win. Forget the draw, because a draw can't help us. We can't go to Abuja with a draw. That's it. You're out. We must go to Abuja with a win.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your time.
Well,
he has deflated your confidence.
He has.
And let me tell you that the last 5 times Ghana has played Nigeria, Ghana has not lost. The last time Ghana lost Nigeria was in 2006. So be confident.
History is on our side, and we're going to do this. Go Black Stars. Thank you very much for watching this. Next, I'm Enes Minu, and this Muftar Nabila Abdullahi. Up next is, well, we have more stories for you. Please stay.